And
Time
hello
to
there.
eat sandwiches.
Hi, everybody. I am D&D Jordan Lee, and of course, I have the honor of being with the wonderful, fabulous Cinziac for our fourth of the interludes, Blackstone, Midnight Blade. These interludes will serve to give us a spotlight into our cast and guest characters with moments from before and during the campaign. Make sure to check out our Patreon where there will be exclusive behind the scenes first looks, interviews, merch, and announcements about our guests and other things coming down the pipeline. You can also check out our YouTube and catch up on everything Ampistrano there, as well as on our TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. There's a lot of things happening, y'all. You can also check out Theodora, Aurea, Toby, and Cal's interludes as well. And make sure to tune in on January 21st, next week, for season 2, our premiere. And I am so excited. Sin, how are you?
So far, so good. I am looking at a sandwich on the table and like some tea over here too. We rolled some dice.
Heck yeah. Do you have anything you want to promote real quick before we get started?
No, I do not. At least, not anything coming up in the next week, but in 2 weeks from now, if you like breakfast foods, you can stop by Waffles Maple and Syrup to hear creepy pianos and see people deal with haunted houses.
Ooh, that's right. Fantastic. It's Delta Green, right?
It is Delta Green, which
Love
I
it.
think I might have finally gotten one of my packages for.
Ooh, go check it out and go support Waffles Maple Syrup. Syrup also does our character artwork for our stat blocks. So it'll be fantastic. But I think it's time, Sin, to go beyond the veil of Ampistrano for the first time in 2 months. You ready?
I think so.
Let's do it. So, our story begins 3 years before season 1 started. Before those glimmers of fate connected and far from the confines of Illipin. We journey eastward, southeastward to be exact, to the capital of Jorix. Jorix sits at the mouth of the Whisperian Sea, the biggest and most formidable of the cities. It is protected by land, sea, and air. The city itself is bisected into different quarters. The docks, where merchant ships from far away, or just down the river, make their way with their wares. The Temple District, where homage to the Pantheon takes place. The God's Acre, where it is the final resting place for many. The Grotto, a large and vibrant market with shops and items from all over. The Hilltops, where nobility and the elite live. This is also home to the airship port. Erudite Quarter, where those that wish to hone their skills, whether it be magical or not, learn from books, libraries, and the museo. The Colosseum, where entertainment and battles wage, as well as Crownsguard hone their skills. Finally, the Crowns, where King Maria and his council sit, ruling over all of Ampistrano. However, for this interlude, our story takes place within the Erudite Quarter, in a small stone townhouse, number 152, on Lysander Lane. As we zoom in on the third-story window, we see an automaton as the sun is now coming into the room, probably about 6 or 7 o'clock. Still pretty early. But the sun is already painting patterns onto your room. Blackstone, are you awake already? Are you just rising? Or are you still in your stasis?
How far into the day are we?
It's about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty early.
I'd say like recently out of sleep, or like sleep slash stasis, because we don't really sleep.
Mm-hmm. And what does your room look like? The room itself, to kind of give you an idea, you have a window in the very center on the left wall. There's a door that's directly across. The window is pretty large. You have a nice little sill, depending on whether you have any plants on there or just use that space to look out at the students and wizards and other such beings making their way through Erudite Quarter. But it's a pretty large room.
So I'd say, like, if I were in an inn and at a room and all that.
So if I can jump in, this is actually to give you a better idea. It's not an inn. This is the home of Welton Pointstaff, who has taken you in, who's the headmaster of Magix, one of the local colleges. He has a residence not far from campus and has allowed you to stay within that confine. So you have your own space to yourself, kind of thing.
Okay. So that probably means, like, there is, like, some, like, clocky is built that, like, tells the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it has, like, a little, like, sun and a moon that kind of rotate depending on the time of day. It's, like, just past, like, it's in the earlier part of, like, the daytime section of the clock there. So it's this thing where it turns, like, little by little over, like, that vaguely 24-hour-ish period. So, it's about halfway through the day section by, like, noon, and then it gets, by evening, it hits the dark section of the clock. There are probably, like, a whole bunch of light reading books, or at least what the professor would consider light reading. So, like, references to, like, parlor tricks to do with friends, but it's all just, like, books of various cantrips of varying kinds. And some of them are like, hey, you should actually check out this book. There's probably, like, a note on the desk with, like, hey, stay out of trouble. Here are some things for you to do while I'm gone if you need things to do. Here's where you can find stuff if you need it. I would have left some instructions for, like, food that you can make, but I don't think you really need it, so I don't know what instructions to leave you.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything happens, this is where you can find me, or how to reach me, or what have you.
Love that.
And he probably has at least one small, like, animal of some kind that is wandering the house. Like a normal thing, right? Like,
sure.
A dog or a cat or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Welton Pointstaff does have a dog that has 3 legs. One of its legs, it's kind of a crude design. You can tell that he took inspiration from meeting you, Blackstone. It's not as neat, but you can tell he's kind of makeshifted some metal, as well as some kind of fabric for cushioning to kind of help our little. What would do you think Pointstaff would name their dog?
I guess that kind of depends. What do I think Pointstaff would name his dog?
He has a black lab retriever, if that gives a better idea.
So it's a little bit less like the type of dog and a little bit more like what kind of things that he likes. I think he would have named the dog after, well, let me see. This is a Welton Pointstaff has, like, what, a school, like, yes, is the headmaster of a school, yep, and specializes in
transmutation magic.
Transmutation. I think he would have named his dog after like a relatively well-known alchemist to the school that he's in.
Sure. We'll go them with Theodora. Or Thea, as he usually is yelling at her to not run around the house too much.
Okay.
Thea, the cute little three-legged black lab retriever, who you do hear kind of maneuvering around the house every so often. It's quiet. You know that Pointstaff has already left for the day. He very much keeps to the adventuring hours he used to keep. It's one of those things that he just about him never has kind of shaken. So, you know, usually between the 4 and 5 o'clock hour, he is usually in his library, and then he'll slowly make his way to Magix, which is the school of magic transmutation, which is just a couple blocks from here. Outside your window, there is a lush square. There's several benches on this cobblestoned street, and then there's a courtyard, essentially. It's a small park that takes up a large section of the area that you are in. It's very quiet. It's a nice little bit of nature in a very busy, bustling city. Because otherwise, you all are on the complete opposite track from where like the farmers are usually coming in, and it's just a nice reminder that amongst the steel and stone of the city and the smell, that nature is not too far away either. But as you are coming out of your stasis and taking everything in, what would you be doing?
Probably reading the note on the desk and then seeing what Thea is doing and observing her for a while, because, you know, it's a interesting thing that this professor has decided to take in this three-legged dog, which, as I understand it, is not like a normal thing for nature, and is also a kind of a, I don't know if you can do like the things that you're supposed to do as a dog with only 3 legs. And it's a thing that the professor has been trying to explain, is that things can be and exist for things other than simply being useful or efficient or what have you. And he's been trying to work on getting me to understand that here for the last little bit, because I am an automaton and I would not know what to do if I could not do what my functions are.
For sure. And the list that he has left behind isn't much. Just let Thea out, supervised. There are several leashes right by the door, which is this mahogany door with a brass kind of knocker on the street-facing side, and then of course a little peephole to see who might be coming in. Think like 1940s kind of style in terms of the townhouse itself.
Okay.
Just very, everything's very neat. He, like, everything has a proper spot. The furniture all over the place is from different parts of Ampistrano. There's cedars from the high north, from Lornan, which is a kind of like a retirement community for adventurers. There's a small chair from Illipin. This is someone who's been all over the place and has decided to settle down here, at least for now, during that. But yeah, the major list is just keep an eye on Thea, and to, if you feel like, maybe learning a little bit of more magic, letting you know when he is free and has a free period if you want to stop by Magix for some information, or letting you know who he can put you in contact with in terms of learning some magic. But the day is yours, Blackstone.
So The first thing I do is like read the note and go kind of okay, and try to remember things like, hey, when you take the out, supervise her. Um, Probably, like you have to keep an eye on her because she wanders. What do you mean? Well, she likes to adventure. That's kind of what I like
Mm-hmm.
about her. And that being said, you can't let her venture too far from the house. Well, how far is too far? What does supervising mean? How does it work? Are there parameters? And having to like discuss all of that and things. The only thing and I understood everything except for the if you walk her or like decide to let her out, you have to make sure to like keep her on a leash. It's something that we've never quite seen eye to eye about because I'm just like, well, I could probably outrun your dog. So if she like starts running away, I'll probably catch her. It's fine. And just like, something. I can't really argue that point. Just don't be careful when you like are trying to get her because I don't think you understand how fragile living things are yet.
Yes.
So I'm like, when I go and I talk to her, it's just like these
Arf.
living beings are sensitive and they have like strong sense of hearing and smelling things. It's kind of like when I talk to her, I try to be
And she comes running up to
relatively
you.
low volume. And when I like touch her, I'm like extra soft.
She greets you immediately as soon as you've kind of made your way out of your room. You can hear the metal lightly tapping on the carpet of the stairs. But as you open your door, she's right at the top, tail wagging, politely giving you your good morning. Ears are up, not standing straight up, but just up and very happy. And then immediately she looks at you and then looks behind her at the door.
These are positive signs. I believe this means you would like to go outside. Okay, well, I guess it is time to take you outside. So,
And she immediately starts jumping up and down, like doing the little "hui." Just so excited that you said the magic word. So
yes, this is something that the professor mentioned. Dogs, in some cases, can understand some words in common, but not many of them, and probably not the more complex ones. But Thea definitely knows what outside means.
she just, at this point, she's just quickly turning around, doing the little like spins at the top of the stairs, just waiting. So excited
And
to have a friend. It's gonna take her
I
outside.
put on like a cloak and some other like common clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and I take the outside.
Okay. So you head outside. There's a number of individuals that are up. You do see some kind of haggard-looking students in robes, looking like they may have pulled an all-nighter, heading over to the local bean shop, which is not far down the street. There's a tea shop as well. There's a number of just residents in this area. You see there are several Crowns Guard that are kind of stationed, but very relaxed. This is, you're in the very inner parts of the city, near like the hilltop district. So the crime rate and things like that, at least from what you know, it's a pretty safe area. But the Crowns Guard are usually pretty chill and don't usually involve themselves in business. Like you see several of them are kind of leaning up. One of them seems to be nodding off against one of the archways to the far right, where it actually separates the districts from each other. But you have that little kind of courtyard area that I mentioned if you wanted to let the outside out there. And you do see a number of folks are walking their animal companions rather, pretty early too. You see a variety of different animals being walked around.
So I see animals being walked around, and this is the only time that leashes make sense.
Hmm.
Um, like normally, if it were like an open yard that didn't have people in it, um, I think Blackstone would be like, just go do the things
Sure.
and don't get in trouble, and I'll come after you if you get in trouble. But like being around other people, um, the professor has explained that not everyone that you walk up to, if you don't know them, are immediately friendly. You should be careful about that. And that's why he keeps Thea on a leash when she's around people. So I'm like, okay, well, we have to do the thing.
Sure.
And I put a leash on Thea and take her on a walk. For the most part, though, as long as she's keeping mostly away from people, I just let her go wherever she wants to go.
Hmm.
And I pass about, I would say, like an hour and a half to 2 hours that way. Just let her walk herself until she's tired.
Is there any specific thoughts that are entering your head, Blackstone, as that is kind of happening?
I spend a lot of time just getting a look at things and people watching. And as Thea wanders into places like the trees, checking the different bushes and stuff like that, take note of, I guess, things. So, for example, for you, would you say that as I walk around, there are things that look like they need to be fixed or worked on, or any
You
of
do
those
see a
things?
couple of things. You know, women that have put out ropes because they're doing some kind of magic with it, that are broken. There are a number of different things, some pots and decorations that are broken outside of several of the townhouses. Um, Even some of the cobblestones from where wagons have just impacted. Um, you know, these stones have been there for the last 500, 600 years. So, um, the city doesn't really pay too much attention in terms of maintenance. So, yes, there would be a number of aspects for you to kind of mend.
Make a note of that because I do. Well, wait. I guess I would know some.
You would.
Okay. So I make note of those things, and then um, I take the back home.
Okay. Um,
Um,
we'll say this happens during your walk. Because I imagine you're taking note, but I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, that kind of autopilot that sometimes can happen when you're doing a task that you know, um, where you don't have to think too much about where you're walking.
mhm.
Um, as that happens, you get a brief kind of flash. It's almost like static entering your vision. And it's almost like deja vu. You've done this before. Not the simple walking of Thea. In fact, in your vision, Thea is not there. You're in a heavily wooded area with a cobblestone path, and you see a woman dressed in yellow, large fabric kind of draped slightly behind her with black hair. Kind eyes, although in this moment, for some reason, she looks slightly annoyed at you, um, as she's waiting by this sunken building. It almost looks like a mound that has been kind of slowly hugged by the earth and grabbed and pulled in slightly. There is a door that is kind of curved up, so you will almost have to pull it up like a trapdoor.
Okay.
And she turns towards you What took you so long? We're about to get started.
Like, in this scene, like, am I aware that this is like a playing back of a scene, or is this more like I am seeing things, but it's like a waking vision where like it feels like it's actually happening at this moment in
It
time?
feels like it's a mix of both, truthfully. It's you in Blackstone's mind, I feel. Actually, no, I'm not going to answer that because that is something that you would have to answer for Blackstone if he would be aware that this is something playing back. But it feels very real. It feels like this is happening in the moment.
Because, right, so I think in that case, I might be. I feel like I would be aware
Mm-hmm.
that things are happening, but also it's a lot like watching a movie that you know so well you can quote all of the lines as they're
Correct.
happening.
Yes.
And I think that's where I would be, where I know that this isn't like it feels very vivid and very real, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also aware that this is like not the current time I'm in, it's a
Correct.
different time.
Mm-hmm. So with that knowledge, do you say anything?
I would probably quote whatever it was that I said, uh,
Which,
that I but that I said at that time. Um, First thing would be, my apologies. Also, late for what?
she kind of gives you this incredulous look. Um, a ceremony? It's my big day. You promised you were going to be there? It's kind of a big deal. Please tell me you're joking.
In approximately 4 minutes, in approximately 4 minutes, 37 seconds, I have been practicing the humor thing for future festivities.
Haha.
It seems I need additional practice. My apologies.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's good you're here now. You can see she looks very put together, but outwardly, she's exuding this confidence that seems to shift slightly when she's around you. And there are individuals, it's hard to see specific features about them, even with your passive perception. It's like the memory has faded, or actually, I'll allow this. Roll a perception check for me.
Well, okay, so we could do that, or kind of, it's one of those things that happens when you play back memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the thing that was the most emotional or impactful is the part that has focus, and the parts that are less important are just like somewhat indistinct and blurry. Like you can remember that things were there, but not exactly what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would probably be like that. Like the reason that it's kind of like watching a movie where people that they're background extras, but
Yes.
they're all out of focus, right? Like you can see that someone has like on a red shirt, or maybe has on a cape, or maybe has on a hat, but like they don't have any distinguishing features because they're in the background and slightly blurred out.
Sure. Yep, that's where I was going, but then I was thinking of something else. But yes, we can totally play it that way. Um,
Um, I mean, I will roll that for you anyway if you want.
yeah, go for it.
You said you needed a perception.
Yes. Perception
Okay.
or arcana, whichever is higher.
Okay. That would be Arcana, and that would be a 23.
There is magic everywhere. She is decked out with it. And even though the people around you are like a dried a paintbrush with slightly dried paint on a canvas around you, kind of shifting in and out. There is magic all around you. Even more so than where you currently are in Erudite Quarter.
I kind of catch her eye for a second because I know how she normally responds, like my attempts at trying to understand people and things and big humor and stuff, and go, "Are you nervous?"
A bit. It's a lot of responsibility, and I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Well, as I understand it, the good part is that while you may be the person who is visibly in charge of things, you also have many people who are very willing to help.
That's true, but it doesn't exactly ease everything. Just
Well,
a lot.
is there some way that I might help? Merriment, perhaps?
Just knowing you're here by my side helps.
The left or the right?
I'll let you pick.
So he kind of like idles up to the right, and then afterward, well, we have about a minute left, and we can't be late. I remembered it was important.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get going. And she takes a breath. You see yourself trying to straighten up and walks ahead past the mound that's kind of sunken into the earth, down the cobblestones, out.
I take a moment while she's like walking to weave a small spell, because apparently I have those right now.
I was gonna say you should have a couple.
Like use find familiar to basically like call for whatever her favorite animal would be.
Okay. And are you doing this stealthily, or are you just being like, hey, here's your favorite animal?
You know something? I'm going to attempt to be stealthy about it.
Okay.
Sorry, something just made like a sudden noise outside, and I was not prepared for that. Okay. Oh no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, do you want a stealth or a sleight of hand?
I will let you choose.
Okay. Stealth
This is relaxed. We'll
is
just
going
go
to
with it.
be a. Okay. Then we'll do a 21.
21. Okay. Okay. She is too busy focused on what's ahead. As the spell takes, very sneakily, there is above you a tree, and one of the leaves falls. It's a bright green leaf, but as it approaches the proximity of you and your magical aura, you see it almost like an entire season happen on this leaf as it shifts from a vibrant, lively green to a red to a yellow, and getting kind of crispy at the ends. And the leaf seems to split and grow, and you see a kind of not super tiny, but not super big, small phoenix kind of manifests behind her, doing a slight call, and just kind of, it's interesting because it does fly around her, but it shifts from being heavily seen to transparent as it crosses in front of her. But you can still see that the warmth is hitting her because even her hair is shifting slightly as that happens. And she continues forward. Moving forward down a cobblestone lane into, you can tell from this vision, this memory, it's outside of whatever city you might be in. This is not Jorix from what you can tell. Far from it. And you see briefly ahead of her a field of flowers and greenery. And in the very center, there's several stones that are placed into a circle around what appears to be almost like a chest, a tomb. It's kind of hard to tell. But there's a great gathering of people all around the flowers and the greenery on this really bright, beautiful day as there's a couple clouds in the air. And she takes one look back at you again before entering into the circle. And that's when the vision shifts.
When she does, I give her that firm, like, got this nod.
Mm-hmm. And she nods as the vision statics again. And you find in this moment that Thea has kind of fallen asleep. You've at this point kind of stopped moving. She's just kind of, you see her stir slightly and looking up at you as you have kind of paused, locked in on this memory and the past. And she'll nip at your feet.
Well, I suppose it's time to go home.
She kind of yips and gets to her feet, stretching, shaking herself off. You do see that several people have kind of stopped to look at you to make sure you're okay, just because you are kind of standing in the middle of this pathway, kind of frozen. But no one approaches. As soon as they see you moving again, they kind of go about their business. And you are heading back to number 152, the townhome.
I also, like, if there's anybody who's, like, nearby just kind of watching or waiting, I also kind of, like, wave at them to, to just thank them for, being patient and not doing things like calling the Crown's Guard or something dramatic like that.
Yep, they were just watching. And then as soon as you were moving, they kind of just went back to their business. Being erudite quarter, it's not uncommon for some students to literally stop what they're doing just to kind of have that silent contemplation about whatever it may be. And finally, roll another perception check for me, please.
Perception, right?
Yes.
Okay, that is a 20.
Okay. As you head back to the townhome, it catches your eye for a moment, and maybe this is what sparked the vision, the memory. Maybe not. But just off of the path, in a kind of vegetation just within the courtyard, there's a small statue of a phoenix perched.
And that's
Vines
in the
are-
house?
I'm sorry?
That's in the house?
No, this is still in that kind of courtyard. You haven't arrived at the house just yet. This is like you're on the way back. It's towards like the left where the greenery and the courtyard is. There's a bench and several trees, but you also see there are these kind of bushes and shrubs, and kind of surrounded by it, it almost looks like it's kind of peeking out of the greenery itself, is a very worn down, small, phoenix statue. The height of it doesn't even reach the where you would normally sit on the bench. It is small, and it seems to be overgrown, or overtaken rather, by the greenery. But maybe this is what sparked it, maybe it didn't.
Fair enough.
And it watches as you head back to the home. At this point, you enter the house. The immediately says thank you in dog language for letting her go outside and for that lovely walk. You do hear some movement happening in the kitchen, and immediately do start to smell cider kind of being cooked over the stove. You smell bacon, some soups. You know this to be the cooking of Pointstaff's kind of housekeeper slash cook, because while he is very great at magic and adventuring, not so great with the cooking. So he has hired somebody to come on in and make sure that, he is actually eating. So do you go into the kitchen or do you head upstairs?
Well, kind of. I don't know where we would need to be in order to bring the into the house properly. So I guess we'd have to start there, right?
She comes in through the front door or the back door. There's not like a specific place that she needs to be let in by. He's not that strict that he's like, you must stay outside before coming on in. Main thing is just making sure that she's taken care of and okay. He's not super strict when it comes to that.
Okay. Excuse me.
No, all good.
Well then, I would probably... I don't know if I've met this person before.
Okay.
So, I would probably, go into the kitchen and, just make them aware of my presence.
Okay. You enter this large kitchen. It almost takes up an entire section of the house, and one solid side of it seems to have been some kind of greenhouse that was repurposed into the kind of dining area. There's a large hearth, and you immediately see an elven woman with bright white and gray hair, very dark skin. She is kind of humming to herself as she is busying. She has some kind of stone on the counter that is playing music lightly. You hear a viola playing in the background with a cello. Very whimsy, not super loud, but it's just nice and clearly some background noise as she is doing her work with the cooking. You, of course, smell the many spices that are plentiful in the area as well. Clearly, she stopped at the grotto on her way here. She does seem familiar to you. And she does, as soon as you kind of come in, she notes you immediately just by your sound. And she turns around quickly, bright green eyes, wearing an white apron which has flour on it and other messes of vegetables that she's cut up and sauces that she's been making. And she kind of quickly wipes her hands on a towel and looks over at you and, there you are. I was wondering when you would get back with the, You don't, you don't remember me. Okay, that's fine. So.
No, it's one of these. No, it's one of these things of being like, and I will ask you this one because I'm not sure how this goes. I don't know, like, if I guess how or if the professor has addressed what my voice sounds like when I talk to people.
No. He hasn't, because he just lets you explain it because you were the one that is the expert with how your voice sounds when you speak, kind of thing. So,
Also, do I like? I don't think we've given this person a name, right?
She was just about to reintroduce herself as Phoebe. Her name is
Okay,
Phoebe.
I was going the same.
You know her to be.
Yes, Phoebe. Yes, Phoebe. I do actually remember your name.
Oh. Well, good morning to you. That sounded nice with the viola and the cello. Did you have a good walk?
I would say so. It was pleasant.
Good. Did you speak to anybody? Did you get into any misadventures? Do I need to worry about Crown's Guard showing up?
Not today.
Good. It's definitely good to hear. I'm just quickly making some lunch. I believe, actually, Pointstaff wanted me to give this to you, and she kind of reaches into one of her pockets on her apron and pulls out a small envelope, which does have a stamp on the back with Pointstaff's sigil, which you know to be an anchor. It is on the back. It's an anchor with like a crank behind it, or not crank, a gear shift behind it. And it's in the wax itself on the seal is a bright, like a royal blue. Unopened, but it just says Blackstone on the front.
Interesting. Also, is the professor coming home today, or should I take any of what you were cooking to the school?
I believe you're supposed to take some of what I'm making to the school. Pointstaff has a couple of meetings, I believe, so he won't be back here until late, but he did mention wanting to give this to you. And if you, just take a look and when you can, get in contact with him. And bring him the food if you can. She kind of gives you a sheepish look of like, I'm so sorry.
Very well. Then I suppose I will attend to the task of reading this particular letter.
Okay.
And then I read the letter.
Okay. You break the seal on the letter. It pops open pretty quickly. Not much on there. It just says, hey, Blackstone, hope you are staying out of trouble. When you can, please meet me at the museo at 2:00. Bring food. Pointstaff at the bottom.
What time is it now?
At this point, you walked for 2 hours. You kind of took your time. I would say it's probably, I'll say about like 11 o'clock. You still got some time.
Okay. Then, in that case, I take the letter and I hold on to it and kind of put it in a pocket somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I do that, I take a moment to start first walking around the house.
Okay.
And then, like, kind of making concentric circles outward from the house, finding things to repair and repairing them.
Okay. You, why don't you roll a D100 for me, please?
Okay, you need a D100.
Zip dice rolls.
That is a 23.
Okay. There is a harpsichord in the study that has several. It sounds like the chords in it are waning. It might need some tuning. You do actually find one that's frayed, and could definitely use some looking into to potentially get fixed. You notice that Pointstaff's favorite chair by the fire that he reclines in after a very long day, usually as he's grading papers. One of the armrests is also not sitting as it should be. It's very weak. It looks like it'll probably need some looking into as well. As well as one of the vases. You can tell that unfortunately Thea's tail is just a nasty culprit and knocked it, so there is a very thin line from where it cracked as her tail kind of hit it and it hit the wall. So you are able to find a couple of things that could definitely use with some looking over, some managing.
I just walk around and it sounds like I'm just like talking to myself, like, but it's me walking around and like mending things because I would say mending as far as magic goes was probably the first thing I learned, and second because all you have to do is talk. So just like running around and like fixing the string on like the harpsichord, and then let me see actually.
Sure.
I don't know if I would have the ability to like tune it, but at the very least it's not in disrepair, so if someone else wanted to, they could. And then that's the other thing, it was like fixing the harpsichord, going into like the study, fixing the chair that Pointstaff likes to be in, and going into the kitchen and seeing if there are things with like scratches on them, and like fixing any of those, or things that are missing handles, or things that have like cracks on the side that we haven't like talked about having them before, or any of those things.
And Thea's walking with you the entire time, just intrigued by everything you're doing. Sorry, y'all. Salem is like, I would like attention, please. Come on, baby.
Like, this is like Thea is being played by Salem, who is also kind of curious about these people moseying about the house now and wondering, like, not necessarily that, you know, Thea wants to go back outside, but is very curious about what these two people are doing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay. You spend that time.
If I find any of Thea's toys that are broken, I go and I fix it.
Oh yeah. You can tell she tore the head off of an elephant stuffed animal that he got from the grotto like a week before. So yeah, you can easily mend that back together. But your time moves quickly, you know. As it approaches the 12:30, 1 o'clock hour, that really... You have a little bit of a walk because the museum is on the opposite side of Erudite Quarter. So it is going to take you some time to get there. Maybe not an hour, but you also know Pointstaff. When he says 2 o'clock, he usually means 10 minutes before the actual time. So it's up to you whether you would like to set out. Phoebe has finished kind of meal prepping and has a small basket for you and for Pointstaff as well.
Okay. So I pick up a thing.
Okay.
And excuse me, I pick up a thing and then I'm like, okay, well, you know, out to it, I guess. That's like where like my mind is. And I go and I pick up things and I say, I will now go and faithfully deliver this lunch that you have taken the time to prepare. And right, do you have a message that you would like me to give the professor when I see him?
The letter for him is in the basket already. So Should be good to go. I'll keep an eye on Thea and lock up before I head out.
Okay. Well, if I do not see you again before then, have a pleasant rest of the day.
You too. Don't get into trouble.
I will do my best.
She kind of shakes her head and rolls her eyes, shutting the mahogany door behind you as you step out onto the streets of Jorix and start heading towards the musea, which you can already see in the distance, the roofing. There's a large kind of pillar that goes up, just letting you know where it's at. But as you head down the cobblestone road, I think now is a perfect time for our break. So we're going to take a quick 10-minute
break time.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, y'all. So get up, stretch, do all the things, hug your cat or dog. Because, yes, and
please give extra love to them today, because this is what this episode is for. I am a paid actor. You're really here for, Theo.
But we will be back shortly, y'all. See you in a moment.
Easy to.
I'm bored.
We can go scream at the cat for another hour.
Nah, I'm tired of screaming at the cat.
Shut up with that! Be bored no more with 1985 games. Enjoy their vast variety of products and help bring your tabletop to a whole new level. With easy-to-use dungeon sticky notes. The deck of stories holds prompts and adventure hooks for any setting, and thousands of cutout game pieces with their dungeon craft.
You've come all this way for nothing, fool! The princess is mine! You'll never get away with this, Balakor!
Write everything down in your Hero Notes journal and start your adventure today! Visit the World Wide Web address 1985games.com and find many helpful products such as their Dungeon Craft series, battle maps, deck of stories, miniatures, dungeon notes, and now VHS dice. Again, that's 1985games.com.
And welcome back. Hi everybody. Hope you got up, stretched, moved around. We are about to continue with part 2 of Blackstone, Midnight Blade. Sin, or Blackstone, are you ready to dive back beyond the veil?
Well, what is the veil there for if not to go through it?
Sounds good. Alright. So, if you're just joining us, we jumped back 3 years before Campaign 1 started. back to before Blackstone knew of Cal, Theodora, Aurea, and Toby. In the capital city of Jorix, as they are currently residing with a Welton Pointstaff, one of the headmasters of one of the colleges in the area, the College of Magics. We've seen a bit of exploration as Blackstone has taken Pointstaff's beautiful little dog Thea for a walk and had a vision of sorts, or maybe a memory. It's kind of hard to decipher. Upon returning to the townhouse, Blackstone met with Phoebe, who gave a letter as well as some lunch, and requested that Blackstone follow the instructions and head towards the museo across town. And that's where we're picking up. Blackstone. At this point in the day, the clouds have kind of shifted. It's been a somewhat speckled day of clouds and sun and a bright blue sky. But now you can definitely tell rain is starting to come in your direction. You can see it slowly moving to start to cover the erudite quarter, blocking out the blue of the sky and instead filling it with a blanket of grays and whites and even some darker kind of colors. You even hear the rumblings of thunder in the distance as you are walking. At this point in the day, you do see that especially upon exiting your kind of quiet corner of erudite quarter and venturing a little bit more into the more populated areas, there are students that are all over the place. Students wearing robes of various colors and styles, representing the many colleges that are in the area, such as the Bard schools or the Wizard schools, to even, honestly, some of the schools for just well, now that it's become open to all, those that just want to learn how to read. You see them milling about during this kind of lunch, mid-break before afternoon classes are happening. You do see some professors as well, kind of settling in, meeting with colleagues, as well as just normal kind of townsfolk, a mother and her tiefling child kind of wandering the streets. The child kind of with white hair and purple skin, kind of looking at you slightly in wonder, seems to be noticing a bit more about you, maybe. While the mother is just kind of focused on other things, is reading something as she's walking.
Okay.
But otherwise, you're continuing on. You do see various shops with herbs and other magical items, wands, proponents for different, potions and spell making, as well as several shops as well, as you continue. Why don't you roll a perception check for me, please? As my displacer beast over here is trying to wreck everything.
That perception is a 6.
Okay. You are very focused on the museo ahead of you. It's getting closer each time. But, you still have a little bit of a distance away. You're also trying to blend in. I think the eye of that child, which you were able to see, definitely kind of was off-putting, because they did immediately start to yank on their mother's hand to kind of point in your direction. So kind of just taking that. Would you stick to the main road, or would you perhaps, since you've been in this area before, would you use one of the other kind of less populated streets to get to the museo?
I definitely would, especially because I'm a rogue and I have features that let me do that.
That's for sure. Okay. You head off of the main road, darting into an alley that connects into a slightly smaller road. This one is less stable as well, or clean. More cobblestones are definitely broken. And you can actually see on some of the paneling on the wall around, and even on some of the buildings, this still is a very, illustrious neighborhood, but there are definitely cracks in the kind of foundation, so to speak. You continue on your way, and you're not far from the museo, probably about 2 blocks at this point, when you feel an impact from the right. And I need you to make a strength savings throw, please.
Why would you ask me to do that with a 1 saving throw I don't have?
I'm sorry?
That strength saving throw is an 8.
Okay. You feel this impact on your right side as you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
And feel yourself being pushed forward, and as that's kind of happening, the grip you had on the basket gives way. And the basket starts to be pulled from your grasp.
Pulled?
Like someone is potentially, whoever bumped into you, you see you can't see the entirety of their being. They're wearing kind of wraps and stuff to kind of hide their appearance. They bumped into you and are trying to grab this basket and take it into their possession.
So can I borrow a page from our yet to be met monk and fairy and try to use sleight of hand to just be like, no, don't do that?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
I will allow that, yes.
That sleight of hand is going to be a 16.
Okay. I will roll that against theirs to see if they will still stay with it. Well, we're going to have a roll off because I also rolled a 16.
Jordan, stop. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what I rolled. I'm going to let you roll.
What did you roll?
Not telling.
I'm curious. What did you roll?
Another 16.
Okay, you hang on to it because I rolled a 2. So that's why I was like, what did you roll? Seriously? So you see, at first there's a tug and you both are kind of stalemated. The second time you're able to just pull the basket back into the majority of your possession. They still have an arm on it and are trying to use their momentum of already moving forward to try to pull this away from you. We're going to go ahead and kind of roll an initiative of sorts just to see how this is going to go down.
Okay.
Just to see. So give me 1 second while I pull up some music. Let's see. That'll work. All right. Okay, what did you roll?
And 11.
Okay. All right. This figure is going to kind of still has their hand on the handle of the basket. Is going to push it back even further into your grip, and at the same time sweep their right leg out so it connects with yours, trying to kind of knock you over. So I'm going to roll to hit, and why don't you do a dex save to see if you can dodge it. Okay. They rolled a 17 to hit.
My dex save was a 20.
Okay. You are able to just kind of seeing what's happening already. And you do hear around you there is a slight hush. While this wasn't as populated, there were several figures and students in this kind of area. You are just able to kind of almost hopscotch over their leg as they come sweeping underneath. It is your turn.
So basically, they shoved the whole basket.
They're
to me
still
at this
hanging
point? Are
on.
still
Yeah, they
holding
were
on
using
to
that
it?
to kind of push you off your balance as you were shifting, and then they were trying to kick your legs out from underneath you to completely knock you prone.
Okay. Okay. I am torn between two probably very practical points of action here.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm gonna do this. So we're going to use a booming blade here and hope that it works. Okay, so that is a 15 to hit with that.
15 does hit.
Okay, so here's what I decide to do.
Okay.
I take out a dagger that I use, but I don't try to, I don't try to stab. I try to hit with the pommel end of these things because they normally look like small swords usually, right?
Sure.
So I try to hit him in near his ribs. I'm not trying to break anything.
Sure.
But I know that most people do not enjoy being hit in the very real bundle of nerves that are right there.
Sure.
So
You're basically going for non-lethal damage, from my understanding.
non-lethal damage, just basically it's the aim of maybe I don't want to actually hurt them, but maybe this will do just enough to cause them to let go.
Sure. Okay.
And so I do that. Oh, okay. They take 5. Well, I guess that's a question because it's not like it's piercing damage. Never mind.
If you're punching them, that'd be some kind of force damage, because you're hitting them with.
Yep, so it'll be 5 damage of whatever type that is.
Okay, I'll call that force damage because you're hitting them still with you're impacting them in some way, shape, or form. So we'll say that force damage. And they take it right in the gut. You're as a little bit of spit hits the ground as you've knocked the wind out of them temporarily, still managing to hang on to the basket with this as they are attempting to recover. Is there anything else you wish to do at this time?
I don't know if I have. Oh, okay. I am going to. Oh, wait, you can only take those 3 things, and none of them are dodge. Okay. I was going to say I don't. Can you take dodge as a bonus action?
I'll allow it.
I don't think you.
I think it would make sense. I'll allow. Hey, this is our game,
Okay.
and we can do whatever we want.
That's true. So I will bonus action dodge.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So to my understanding, you're going to try to dodge whatever this person is going to try to do next if they're going to try to hit you, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm also if there isn't anything resembling a clock tower or anything like that around here, is there?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm only asking because I want to get a sense of what time this is.
I mean, you could maybe roll to kind of get a perception of what, because Blackstone
No.
would know what.
I absolutely don't. It's a 7.
Okay, your mind is trying to do too many things at once. In this moment, you are hyper focused on trying to make sure that this thing doesn't go missing.
Yeah, my programming does not release me to do that.
Yeah, there are no sundials or small grandfather clocks in the area for you to see what the time might be. Okay. So since you're going to use your bonus action to dodge, what we'll do is you will have advantage on the dex save to try to get out if they are trying to hit you, which they are. So you will get advantage with that dodge.
That is going to be a 12 on the saving throw.
Okay. They do connect. They, at this point, are going to kind of... You see themselves bracing slightly. Their shoulders squaring off. Still holding onto the basket with their... Maybe hanging on with their left if they came in from the right. They are going to square up with their right hand and just punch right at where the area is where your throat would be. They can't see an exact area. They're just going right for where the kind of cloak is connected around, aiming for what they believe is going to be a sensitive spot. And they are going to do 8 points of force damage.
Okay.
Or punching damage, however we want to call it, because this is our game. So, and let's see. They're going to try to start using their movement. Won't be much, but they're going to try to use their movement to pull you and the basket off of the main road.
I warned them not to do that.
Okay, how's that sound?
Like, it looks like me putting up a finger, but then not letting a sound come out.
Sure.
And I'm like, but just before, because if they move, they immediately get thunderclapped.
Ooh!
because of the booming blade.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah. Yikes. For them, that is 6 thunder damage.
Oof. As all of a sudden, this loud explosion happens in the area. You see at this point, you are gathering a crowd. People are noticing. Crown's Guard have been called, and you can hear in the distance, kind of almost like rain falling on metal. You can hear their boots hitting the cobblestone ground as they are far away, but they are moving in your direction to see what's going on as this is happening. The figure looks shocked, but is still hanging on.
So, can I do a thing?
Sure.
Because I know that I don't learn this properly with practice. I don't learn this properly until I practice it, but I still have like the feat that you gave us at like the beginning levels for telepathic things.
Yes.
So what I want to say is, out of a surge of frustration of trying to get them to just comply, but knowing that I can't talk, they just hear me scream in their mind for them to basically the equivalent of, what is your problem? Let go of my basket.
Okay. Why don't you roll an intimidation or persuasion, depending on how maybe Blackstone is trying to flavor this.
This thing says I have inspiration, and I'm going to use that for this because
go for it.
Oof,
That's what it's there
gross.
for.
Yeah, that was the better choice.
What'd you get?
Using a persuasion at this point, it's a 17.
Okay.
And like what they hear is, this is going to cause unnecessary attention and undue harm. Please let go of my basket.
Okay. The hand kind of snaps in your direction. You just see these vibrant, kind of purple red eyes looking at you. Like one is purple, one is red. For a moment, and your eyes connect, kind of looking in shock, but also like squinting slightly at the yell that you just did in their mind. Kind of clearing all of their thoughts that they were having. And you see that their grip on the basket drops. But in that moment, it looks like it is the end of their turn. It looks like they are starting to lunge at you instead. It is your turn.
Okay, so they have let go of the basket.
They have.
Am I upright?
You were up. Yeah. You had not been knocked prone. You had held your own after that first attack, and they learned not to try to mess with your legs. So.
In that case, I am going to dash, and then I'm going to dash again. I'm just going to leave because I do not like. Listen, we don't want these problems. We don't. And
Sure.
like people are going to be over here and all this other stuff. And I just what this looks like for this dash, right? Isn't like me like taking off running as fast as I can, but it's me like walking with clear purpose toward the school and like trying to blend into like the people as I do.
Sure. Definitely can do that. Why don't you roll, since you're trying to blend in, I'm going to allow either performance, deception, or stealth.
Okay.
Those are your three options depending upon what you're trying to do.
I will take the stealth option.
Okay.
And that is a 15.
Okay. Let's see. You are able to kind of dash away into the crowd, which does part away from you momentarily. Where you were at on the alley is right before it meets up with another road. So it was kind of a T shape. So you're able to kind of join back into the busier crowd. You hear their footsteps following you, but not directly behind you. You can hear them kind of shifting. And the reason you hear is because people are making noises of like, oh God, like as this figure is kind of quickly trying to dart in between the crowd of figures that are around them as you are moving. We're kind of moving into more of a chase scene now with this initiative. But this person is still in pursuit of you at this time, and you can hear them. They are going to use their full turn to continue to move after you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What are you doing, Blackstone?
We are going to continue to, as stealthy as possible, just dash and bonus dash. But the idea is I'm going to be trying to move toward the school because I have this man's lunch and I'm trying to make sure he gets it.
So, clarifying thing, you're moving to the museo, which is not the college's. It is actually like a museum. It's why it's in a different portion.
Like that's where is that where the professor said to meet him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Then it would be like, then that would be where I'm like, basically wherever the professor wants me to meet him for lunch is where I'm headed.
Yep.
And I'm like, we're going to dash. And then I have a bonus action and we're going to dash.
For sure, you can do that. You are moving through, and to kind of set the scene a little bit further, you have people moving various ways around you. On either side, it's like it's not as plentiful as the grotto is, but it's like a mini market where people can pick up notebooks and stuff. So there's stores and stalls that kind of pick up. So you're able to, if you'll allow me and if you want, to kind of poke in. I'm thinking of like that scene from National Treasure where the lady pops into the diner and she's just hiding real quick and then quickly darts off into another area. You're kind of stealthing around.
Okay, so it looks like you want a little bit of theatrics. I will give you some if you give me a thing.
Okay, sure.
Are there, because of the time period that we're in, right? Are there things with like awnings, curtains, things that are like held up or tied up with rope that I am positive I could like use as an obstruction without like maybe causing a mess but not harming people?
Yes, 100% yes.
Okay, hold on for a second.
if you said I'm the dramatics. I'm like, excuse me.
Okay, so here's what I would like to do. I would like to use a sleight of hand
Okay.
to do the following. As I'm running by, like as I'm kind of making my way and dashing, if I see things that I can like cut so that they fall over moments after I've already passed.
Yes.
I would like to do that, and I would like to use sleight of hand to make it not obvious that I'm doing any of these things.
For sure. You can definitely do that. 100%. You knock over, this woman was selling tapestries, marking, some of the various schools and having kind of the sigil of Jorix and the King Maria and having a very unique design. And you quickly just knock over the rope that it had been kind of displayed on. And you hear a quick shout because in the view, it wasn't you that cut it. You immediately look like maybe take a quick look behind you and you see the figure has fully flown into the tapestry. And so there's this shape of it on them. Stalled for a moment and you quickly see the woman yelling and engaging with this person. So for the moment, their attention is elsewhere. You are approaching now. The museo is not far ahead. It is one street over. You can see where the pillar, the tower, is kind of sticking out behind a series of walls. It is at the very edge of the actual quarter. You can see that there is a wall that kind of expands around, as well as the archway that separates, again, each of the quarters from their respective selves. They usually lock them up if there's some kind of quarantine or if there's a curfew in place. But you are not far. But it is up to you. What would you like to do, as this person is literally still in pursuit? They're just very delayed behind you.
I'm just gonna keep dashing until I get to the museo and try keeping a lookout for like any other such things that I can use as obstacles.
Okay.
On occasion, if I get like a certain amount of feet ahead of them and it's just kind of like, oh, this might be something, right, that I can use. Something that I can use without having to, like, if I get a certain amount of like distance ahead of them and it's clear that they can't see me, one of the things I'm absolutely going to do is like try to like duck into a side building for a bit.
Sure.
Or like if there are like turns I could make or whatever, or and especially if in a moment that they can't see me, there are things I can stealthily try to climb, I will try to do that.
Okay. So of those options, because I will say this, all three of those are available. Which one would Blackstone choose?
Probably climbing.
Okay. All right. Why don't you make a quick acrobatics check then?
Okay. All right, that is our first nat 20 of the evening.
Nice, nat 20, baby. Okay. You are able to find near the museo. It's kind of, it's rare, but there is an abandoned kind of building, but it does look like it'll give you some coverage. You can tell that no one has been in this area, in this specific townhome, which is falling apart slightly. The ceiling has stones that have caved in. The door is slightly ajar, but you are able to, if you so chose, climb up to the second story window directly across the street from the museo and kind of hide out in there.
That I do, and I just kind of like wait to see if this person passes by.
Okay. You wait a few moments and switch music for a moment. You wait a few moments, and while you in your automaton state don't have a physical heart, you can hear very slightly the whirring of the mechanics and the jewel that is held within you has flared up slightly with the amount of energy it just had to disperse. And in that moment, you can hyper focus. You see, after a couple of minutes, the same cloaked figure moving through the streets, looking around, looking slightly confused, their movement angry. And you see them duck into an area right by the museo. The museo itself has two kind of statues that go up on either side, and then a set of stairs leading upward onto a slightly raised platform. And you see him kind of leaning up against the wall and yawning, coughing. Whatever they're doing, they've raised something to their face and seem like they're making a slight stretching moment. But something about it isn't clicking. Their eyes aren't shutting as the usual yawn movements you've seen Poindstaff do.
Can I insight that?
Sure.
Okay.
What
that
are
is
you
going to
looking
be
for specifically?
like, so I guess here's the thing. I want to know if basically like they're doing the things that look like they're trying to like be inconspicuous, like, oh, I'm just here, just yawning, doing things, right? But I guess it's is this a magic shenanigan, or are they signaling to someone?
Got it. What did you roll on that insight?
I rolled a 20.
Okay. I'm going to go with that and your passive perception.
Okay.
You see a spark of magic in their hands. And in the moment after they've spent several minutes speaking into their hand, not necessarily making out what they're saying because they're across the street and you still hear carriages and life carrying on. You see a glimmer of black, a small stone that they quickly pocket into their right side before kind of putting one leg up and crossing their arms and just kind of leaning up against the pillar.
Okay. So animals in the area that are common, like what? Birds, mice?
There's
that type of
birds,
thing?
mice, horses, just because the wagons that have to move through. That would be the major ones because you're still far away from like the grotto and the farm district area, which is just outside of the city.
Okay. Then in that case, I would like to take, because you know we have the time or whatever. I would like to wait. Can I do that? Hold on.
Okay, take your
Okay,
time.
how far is the museo? Did you say it was from here?
Not far. It's directly across the street, but you have two pillars. This person is leaning up against them, and then think of like
Like, I just need to, like, it's being across the street is perfect.
yeah, it's just across the street.
So what I would like to do is take the time to cast a find familiar
Okay.
in the form of like a creature that would just like normally be in the area that is like really unassuming. So like some like a small bird or a small mouse or
Okay.
something like this. And you know,
Roll
once
D8 for me.
a D8.
Yes.
Okay. That is a 5.
Okay. What does it look
Once
like as you're casting this?
What does it look like as I'm casting this?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it looks like a gear appears on a horizontal plane and it starts to turn, and then you see like basically like chemical compounds. You see like equations starting to run by for like what the build is, like what the scientific build would be for this creature, and it kind of appears like this fantasy looking 3D printing machine where the creature appears.
Sorry, I was adjusting your camera slightly. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The gears and the symbol appears. And after a few moments, rising up from the gears that have slowly started to shift, weaving a purple thread into almost a knit blanket? Mitt? It's hard to tell for the moment until it completely rises up from the gear and it takes the shape of a small squirrel. The color starts to settle into a brown squirrel, not too large. And only you can see, as the spell is still manifesting, you in control, there's a purple string that is slowly just weaving its way onto the tail of the squirrel as you are now summoning the familiar to your side.
I send this creature to go and actually hold on for a moment. Let me look at this real quick. Okay. I send the familiar across the street to the museo.
Okay.
To the museo.
All right. Why don't you roll? We'll say in this moment, you're controlling the squirrel's movements, so go ahead and roll performance.
Performance, huh? That is all of a 9.
Okay. It keeps stopping every so often, but that's not uncommon for squirrels to do. You've seen them do that in the courtyards. It's not too different.
I'm like looking at this, and I'm like also like, hey, I'm trying to control this summoning, and the squirrel's just like, oh wait, aha, right, you wanted me to, oh wait.
Okay. After several minutes, and you do see the figure kind of give a glance to the squirrel as it heads up the stairs in the museo. It seems to have made it.
It goes into the museo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the area that I'm in, is there a place for me to like hide, like a side room or a closet or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I try to take the time to be in that hiding place.
Okay.
And when I get in there, I pick like a place for me to sit down and get comfortable. Right, and I put the basket, so I try to make like room for myself in this basket to be in this place.
Sure.
And to make sure I'm not visible from someone who just happens to walk by where I'm in. Like I try to like scope out the surroundings in that way. And once I do, I use the ability that Mind Familiar has to see through the eyes of this creature
Okay.
that I summoned and sent into the museo. And I directed I spend the rest of that time looking for the running around places and looking for the professor.
Okay. You see a black and white floor in the entrance, a grand chandelier, a desk that towers above you, where you do see a orc woman is helping out several visitors to the museum. There are wings to the left and right with artifacts, artwork, information about the history of Ampistrano and beyond. So far, you don't see the professor until you enter a much larger room towards the back. It's got an open skyline, and at this point, rain is starting to fall. And it takes you a moment to realize that you're standing on a map of Ampistrano. Currently, you're standing on the city of Allegris, which is just north of Jorix. And seemingly, you can see the weather that's happening on there. You can see that right now they're getting also some rain as whatever storm system is moving through and impacting both of the towns. And off to the left, there's a bench where you see that Pointstaff is waiting, and by his demeanor, waiting impatiently. Keeps looking down at his sundial as this is happening, and he seems to be accompanied by two other figures as well. One appears to be a tiefling, red, wearing vibrant robes of green and gold, as well as an elven woman who's got long red hair, very curly, in bright blue robes. That are just kind of waiting at this time.
So when he gets there, when I see him, I imagine he's sitting at the bench.
Yes.
And so I do the things that a squirrel does. I actually just clamber up his pant leg then just clamber up his pant leg, probably watch him freak out, try to hang on as well as I can, and continue climbing my way up to his shoulder.
Okay. He looks alarmed. He's like, what the? And seems to be trying to shake you off.
So when he tries to shake me off, I jump onto the hand that he's trying to shake me off with.
Okay.
And then, I kind of wait until he stops moving for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I point the squirrel at the building that I'm in.
Okay. It's back through the halls of the museo that you were in, directly straight. Make a persuasion check.
That is the second nat 20 of the evening.
Ooh, okay. Pointstaff. Still slightly.
And what to kind of give an idea of what I'm going to try to do. If
Sure.
he looks at it and it's kind of I'm not sure what's happening, I'm going to have the squirrel spin around in a circle and then stop and continue to point in the exact same direction.
Okay. You see him kind of contemplating a bit more. Well, guess there's a first time for everything. And he gets up and slowly starts heading towards the front of the museo, apologizing to the individuals for a moment and then he'll be right back. And starts walking with a cane, because he is a little bit of an older dwarf, back towards the entrance. After about 10 minutes he gets there, because he's moving slow. And he's also dealing with a squirrel that he keeps glancing at, very confused.
I'm just looking around, like, as the squirrel. Is that guy still there?
The person is still there.
Okay. Person is still there. I, as the squirrel, which way is that person from where point staff is?
So if you're coming out of the building, the person is to the left pillar, if they're looking and facing the building that you're currently in.
And they probably would be. So as the squirrel, I kind of do that whole like circle thing again, and I point directly at the person who has been following me the whole time.
Okay. I'm gonna roll insight to see if he is getting what you're trying to say, or if he's gonna interpret it as something else, so we will see. Okay.
Myself, I need you to get it together. You're a whole professor.
He's an old man. He darts a look to the individual.
Now, I can see this. What am I reading? I can see this, right? So
Yeah.
What am I reading from, like, their facial expressions and mannerisms?
In point staff or in the individual?
Point staff in this case.
Okay, point staff looks slightly confused, but is you see the gears in his head trying to put things together. And he starts to approach the individual. Nice day we're having, huh? The figure kind of straightens up slightly. Doesn't answer. Are you holding that pillar up, or are you just admiring the city? Is this your squirrel? No response. You see after a moment
So
their
when
hand hovering over their right side. You see a glimmer of gold in the distance as their hand is hovering over a dagger.
Okay. So if I see them about to do a thing, when they go to reach for the dagger, I am going as the squirrel to jump onto that hand and bite them.
Go ahead and make an attack. Why did this turn into a Pokemon battle? I choose you.
An attack. What attack do I? Oh my god. Okay, hold on.
It's a bite. If you're biting, it'd be a bite attack. So a plus like 2.
No, I need to look up the stats for a rat.
I feel like squirrels have stats. Do we need to make that?
Oh wait, sorry, squirrels.
Yeah,
right.
it's a squirrel. It is not a
Oh,
rat.
no,
I've been playing
they
too much
don't.
of Plague's Tale. There's no rat. No.
they do not have, something that's fair.
So just add a +2 to your bite.
Okay. Oh,
And roll
okay.
roll a d12 with that. For the damage dice, it'll be a d4, we'll say.
Okay, so here's what we got here, right? So for the roll, I got a 15.
Okay, it does hit.
Okay, and you said to roll a what?
Roll a d4, and then add 2.
D4 plus 2, so that is 3 damage.
Okay.
Right? That the only thing there is, I want to do 2 things in this moment.
Okay.
Thing number 1, I want to make that attack so that point staff is drawn to like what was about to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing that I would like to do, right, is if you will allow me to, I would like to use a bonus action. And I want to just use the bonus action to dismiss the creature.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I believe that point staff would know what a spell looks like when Blackstone dissipates that magic.
Yes, you have a magical signature he is aware of, yes.
And I think he would pick up on, oh, it's you, without me having to tell him. So that's what I would like to do.
100%, yes, you can do that. The squirrel immediately bites down on a bit of area on this person where the glove just ends, and before kind of the shirt they're wearing and the cloak kind of connect, that little bit of skin right at the wrist. Immediately their hand kind of drops away as the squirrel disappears in a puff of purple smoke. Pointstaff does immediately take notice now that there's purple smoke hovering over this golden dagger that is there, of what's going on, and immediately starts looking around in clear recognition of knowing, hey, is you. So they are going to quickly, but also not to draw a lot of attention, going to quickly take their staff and kind of disperse themselves into the crowd. The figure who has shouted now and kind of caused a little bit of the scene, you see quickly darting off into another direction, seemingly leaving your passage out of this wrecked home free for the moment.
I, like, having dismissed the creature, I'm probably backing myself in this, like, whatever room I've locked myself in.
Sure.
And I make my way out and downstairs as quickly as possible, and across the street to the museum. Probably just a wee bit, like, rained on, wet, moistened, and whatever else. And I just kind of catch the professor's eye for a long moment if he's still outside.
You see him wandering away as quickly as he can.
You know, like back into the museum?
No, kind of back down the streets, taking a variety of different street passages away from the museum.
Oh, no, I'm looking for the professor in this case.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
yeah. The person that was following you darted further, if you're looking at it from where you are, to the right, down a street. The professor went left and is kind of trying to move away from the area, and also doesn't know exactly where you are, even with the pointing squirrel, because there was just a lot of things.
Is he leaving because he's trying to leave, or is it he's leaving because he's looking for me?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I go like looking around, and when I spot the professor, if I can spot them, because they're not like very quick moving.
They are not quick at all. No.
I like dash over to them as quickly as I can.
Okay.
And I give them, and I just go, I'm sorry that I'm late.
I appreciate the heads up. Let's go find a quieter spot.
I think that might be best.
And he kind of reaches out to like kind of hold your arm. You know, sometimes when he walks with you, he'll sometimes lean on you slightly, being a little bit more comfortable than using the cane every little bit. And the two of you head down an alley along the stoned wall now at the very edge of Erudite Quarter. He looks at you after a couple of moments. Can you do one more check for me, please? Do a perception check.
Nope. Okay, perception.
Perception.
That is an 18 for you.
Okay. The area seems pretty clear. Doesn't seem like anyone's followed you at this time. And you see him kind of waiting for this crowd to kind of pass by as he taps on stones in front of him. There's a torch that's on the wall. And he taps the third one from the right. 2 up directly from that. And then 2 to the left of the torch. Making kind of a weird triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And the stones shift in coloring, going to more of a dull and making a slight doorway, which he steps through. Do you follow?
I do.
Okay. And as you step forward into the stones, perhaps thinking more on what might be falling behind you as the camera pans. And you do see a figure hiding behind a barrel with that golden blade, with, at the very hilt of it, which you saw for a hot moment, especially in that squirrel state, being so close to it. Gold and black, but there's a sigil at the top. Looks like a moon. And they watch as you and the professor disappear into the wall. And that is where we're going to end for today.
For the audience at home who's just like, boo. Well, something, if you want the rest of it, you can go to Patreon and you can go to AmpistranoDND, and then you can go ahead and get the goods.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you also like this and other episodes, you can talk to Jordan about where you can also find her Ghelfi, where you can give her all of the monies for all of the things that she does and enable her to make more cool stuff. You can almost book my time for free. Almost.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I've been literally so excited for this. I'm very impatient about this too.
Something, they say things about, like the professor and whatnot and the people who make them and not falling very far from the tree or whatnot. So here we are.
I know, not too far. And Sin put it perfectly. If you like what we do here, seriously, now more than ever is a great time to back our Patreon, because we have a lot of really cool stuff in the works. It also makes sure that our cast gets paid, because their time and their work that they're doing in this is so important. And now more than ever is when we should really be supporting fantastic actual plays, podcasts, creations that are out there. So please go check it out, because believe me, we're gonna have more of these, and some of them will just be Patreon exclusive. So who knows, we'll find out more about this Midknight Blade and what that means for Blackstone and the professor, as well as what the professor may be showing Blackstone. Sen, this is, as always, an absolute pleasure. Why don't you tell everybody where we can find and support all the amazing things you're doing?
Well, when I come back to streams, you can find me on Twitch at Sinziak. You can find me on most places on the internet by the same name, except for Twitter. Well, however long that lasts. And you can find me with waffles, maple, and syrup bi-weekly on Tuesdays. So not this coming Tuesday, but the next Tuesday. Live on waffles, maple, syrup, and or you can catch up on YouTube, also at Waffles Maple Syrup, where you can get butter, batter, obviously syrup, and maybe a couple of creepy things, distorted piano music, and a person who I play there who is entirely normal and has nothing going on. Except for maybe having a couple of rough nightmares as a kid, which I'm sure are completely fine.
Yeah, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. Go support Sin as well as Waffles Maple Syrup. Again, they did our incredible stat block art, which you will see next week, because y'all, we're back. We'll be back next Saturday, January 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I'm really excited to get back into it because I've been lucky and been able to game with each of these fantastic cast members one-on-one. But it's been almost 2 months since we've all been together playing. And we have a lot to catch up on. So thank you.
There's some we left y'all on some drama, which, by the way, I mean, maybe if you are among the unaware, the uninitiated, the people who have not seen or who might need to review just to make sure that you are, where we need to be. You got the context with story and stuff like that. YouTube.com.
Yep.
AmpistranoDND, I believe, is the name. You can go over there and subscribe today, like right now, and get like multiple episodes. You can binge watch this weekend if you want to.
Do it.
Get chills, get the spills. Wonder if Sam and Cal are ever gonna get together. Like, you can do that today.
Wonder if something's magic or is it science? You never know. But no, everybody's fantastic. Please go support. And stay tuned, because after this is going to be Toby's interlude. So stay tuned for that, as we'll find out more about RoboGoblin and Toby, and explore a bit of their past as well. But from all of us here at Ampistrano, thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Be kind, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time, Beyond the Veil. Bye, everybody.